Broke up with my girlfriend at my brother's wedding because she defied the dress code. Now she's begging and blaming. I dated my ex for about 4 years. My family is from Nigeria, and I'm very proud of my culture. My ex is white. I grew up in Australia, but I have close ties to my roots. Originally, race was not an issue when we first started dating, but as we got more and more serious, I felt like she wasn't willing or didn't really understand how important my family and culture are to me. My SIL was always close with my mother, despite the cultural barrier, and always seemed happy to come to family events and spend time with us and treats my like her own brother. She's even been learning how to cook some of our foods from my mother, which made my mum really happy. And my brother has been learning to cook North Indian-style curries and stuff as well. My SIL isn't conservative or anything, but culture is important to her and my brother. And as I get older, it feels important to me too. The final straw was at my brother's wedding that spurred me into action. My SIL is Indian, and she's also very fiercely proud of HE, her culture as well. And they've always talked about how mixed-race kids grow up, culture neutral, whereas they wanted their kids to have the best of both worlds. I've noticed that my ex was never that into my culture, never really spent time with my family, and didn't really enjoy coming to family functions and that sort of thing, and used to always question some of our cultural practices in a really quizzical kind of way. And I could tell that she found it a bit dumb. She also made comments about migrants not taking the effort to assimilate. Her words. Anyway, my brother and SIL had an amazing Indian Cha Nigerian fusion type of wedding. Because in her culture, white is the color of widows, and black is the color for funerals. They specifically, under dress code, stated to wear your colors. No black or white. My ex mostly only wears black. It didn't really bother me, but on the day of the wedding she wore a black dress. I asked her not to wear a black dress because it specifically stated on the invite not to, but she was adamant that my SEL was being a bridezilla, and she didn't have to accommodate. Anyway, at the wedding, my ex was the only one in black. My SEL took one look at her and asked her if she was going to a funeral after the wedding. My ex got very embarrassed and said that she didn't have any other dresses when my cousin piped up with, "Oh, why didn't you tell us? You could have borrowed one of mine. We're the same size." My SEL didn't say anything after that. They were too busy with other stuff, but my ex was fuming the entire time at the wedding. To make matters worse, she says, a few other people asked her why she was wearing black. I didn't see anyone, but they might have. After the wedding, she was mad at me for not backing her up. I told her not to wear a black dress, and that if she needed to buy one, then she had plenty of time. She said she didn't need to buy one since she has a right to wear what she wanted, and that it was unreasonable to dictate something like this for a dress code since she wasn't from their culture. Anyway, the fight escalated, and finally, in the heat of the moment, I broke up with her. It's been a few days now, and she's blowing up my phone alternatively, begging me for another chance, but also mad at me for not backing her up. I feel like, given how well my SEL interacts with my family, even though she's from another culture, how respectful she is, I want someone like that. For me, a wedding is about families, not just individuals, and I don't want to lose my relationship with my family over my girlfriend or wife. I need some perspective here. Did I do the right thing, or should I have backed up my ex? I mean, it's a silly fight, all right? The bride herself wasn't even mad about it. I'm sure they can figure something out. Update 1. I spoke to my brother and SEL about it because they'd noticed I seemed down and didn't talk about my ex at all. They convinced me to talk to her because they thought it was very disrespectful what she did. But her kind of white didn't understand family or culture, and I did invest 4 years of my life with her. My brother and SIL also told me that I owed it to my LF to get some closure, and I agreed. I spoke to her a few days ago because how abrupt the relationship ended. It did not go well. We met and had coffee in a park. I told her how hurt I was that she would disrespect my brother and SIL on their wedding day by wearing a dress in one of the 2 colors they asked us not to wear. She told me that she'd forgotten about wedding and had to rush to get something to wear. I told her I wasn't convinced. The wedding had been on everyone's mind and we'd be asked to help set up the hall, which she didn't want to help with, but I went. She told me this was a stupid fight over a stupid dress. I didn't feel that way. I felt it was her not respecting our culture. That's when she got annoyed and told me that culture is a man-made thing and that we were in Australia. Now I told her that my heritage was always going to be important to me and my future children, and that I couldn't be with someone who didn't feel that way. She mentioned things like FGM and stuff. None of the women in my family have gone through that. And stuff. And I told her that culture is a dynamic thing and that my family didn't even believe in that stuff and weren't that backwards. I was offended she'd even think so. Surely you see from meeting them that they're not like that. It was wrong of me, but I pointed out that all my mother, my female cousins, etc. were all more educated and successful than her. That was when the conversation started rapidly going downhill. She told me she'd chosen a less strenuous career for me because we wanted to have kids, and she wanted to be there to raise them. Unlike my double-income family members, including my mother, because I'd mentioned that my mother had worked weekends sometimes. My mother got an education against all odds, and my parents have always been after me to educate myself, which I have. That pissed me off. I told her quite angrily that I always respected what my mother and father had done for us, that she was 28 when she met me, so she didn't choose a less strenuous career for me. She couldn't blame me for that. She then got upset and said she didn't have much time to have kids. How could I do that to her? She should have listened to her family that I was untrustworthy, and she'd wasted the best years of her life. On me, I told her if that's the way she felt, then it's better that we stay broken up, and got up and walked off. Yesterday, I got a nasty FB messages from various family members calling everything from a N-word to how my ex was lucky she didn't get AIDS from me. I've blocked all of them. I told my family about it, and they were furious. I'm better off without her. It's a good thing we didn't live together, even though we've got stuff at both our houses. Her family was a bit conservative, like though. She's texted me a few times since apologizing and wanted to talk again, but I only responded to say that I wanted to pick up my stuff, and I'd boxed her stuff up, so we should probably meet at the park to exchange it. An hour later at midnight, the day before, she kept texting and calling me to come give her stuff immediately, so I went with my brother, Esil, and cousin, and we exchanged stuff. Her dad was there, and he started getting riled up, calling me names, a piece of shit, etc. But my SILG right up in his face and just started yelling right back up at him and told him that we'd got to police and show him the 15-odd messages of his daughter saying that if I didn't come get my stuff, she'd destroy it. And she was happy to post all the nasty messages his family had sent me to their workplaces. My ex then begged her dad to calm down, and so he walked off. I refused to go inside the house and told my ex to get just my stuff. Turns out she hadn't packed up my stuff, so my SIL suggested we drop her stuff off at a mutual friend's house, and ex had a week so she could do the same. I called around to find a friend, and she agreed to it at the time as well. My ex then messaged me today apologizing because she wasn't expecting my family members to turn up and that she'd wanted to talk, and she reacted badly. With her father there? Yeah, right. I told her the same thing. She had a week. Get my stuff packed up and dropped off to friend's house. She texted me back saying it didn't have to be like this, etc. But I told her it did, and I didn't want to discuss anything further. In the future, I'll notice warning signs about her family's behavior and stuff well ahead, and not always feel like I have to prove myself over and over again because I'm black, or put up with Nigerian scam jokes, or being affectionately called Blackie because I don't want to make a fuss, or because I didn't want to be seen as oversensitive. It wasn't until I spoke to my brother, and to a lesser extent my SIL, after this conversation that I realized how not normal this was. Anyway, I have dropped her stuff off, and I'm just hoping I get my stuff back from her place. The most expensive thing is a tablet, but I won't be too out of sorts if I don't get it back. It'll just be an expensive lesson.